Today I'm going to tell you a story about following my purpose. And when I allowed myself to be open to guidance from my one true source, God the good omnipotence, what seems a miracle can happen. It all started when I was born. No, really, seriously. By age 5, I consciously knew that I had a purpose to fulfill. Now, a bunch of squiggly lines later, my life path, and that purpose started to become clearer. Delving into the depths of my soul and walking through fire, the purpose became even clearer. And as you can probably tell, the beginning of understanding my purpose was somewhat painful, very chaotic, and some would ask, why are you doing this? Well, in John verse 14, chapter 12, he writes, He that believeth on me, the works that I do shall he do also, and greater works than these shall he do. That's why I'm doing this. When I was 7 years old, I felt my calling was to be a nun. I read books about nuns. I volunteered to clean out the convent so I could be closer to the nuns. I would practice as 7-year-olds do, walking with my head very stiff because of the habit they wore. And I would ask my mother, how do you get grace? Because I heard that's what nuns had a lot of. I went to church every week and I prayed and prayed and prayed to become a nun. Now, you and I both know that's not how this works. I read in the Metaphysical Dictionary Revealing Word that the Church of God begins its activity in man as a mental perception which must go through certain processes before it is established in the whole consciousness. As I was delving deeper, I knew I needed a way to stay conscious of my one true source. So I created a mantra to use. God guide me. Now, this mantra holds a lot in it for me because when I say it, I always smile. I breathe. I slow down. I remember that God is my one true source, and I am grateful. My entire life had been one of service, and during this time I learned the difference between self-sacrifice, self-service, helping, and then I learned how to be in service where I put my hands to work and my heart to God. God guide me. Now let's fast forward to 6 or 7 years ago. I started to follow a path of becoming a licensed Unity teacher, and after completing all of the classes at the end of 2021, I wasn't sure what to do next. God guide me. I went within, and every time I thought of being a licensed Unity teacher, crickets. Nothing. No quickening, no excitement, nothing. So about a year ago, I came to an understanding that I could just go right into ministry. But which one? It all felt so out of reach to me. The idea that I could actually be an ordained minister excited and terrified me all at once. How would I do this? God guide me. Every year our church has a theme that we use throughout the year, and we design our services, events, classes, and workshops around that theme. And last year's theme was pray first. So practicing this theme really prompted me to spend the better part of a year in prayer asking, God guide me. This year, the theme is flying in faith. So this meant that I really needed to step up my game. I read that Charles and Cora Fillmore wrote, when Jesus had attained a certain soul development, he called upon his 12 apostles. This means that when we are developing from personal consciousness into spiritual consciousness, we begin to train deeper and larger powers. Yes! Here's part of the answer. God guide me. I have 12 spiritual powers that are always available. So I sent off the payment for and received an online application to apply to Unity Urban Ministerial School. Now, have you ever heard of the saying, watch what you pray for? I had no idea at the time, but filling out this application was going to be another life-enhancing event. God guide me. I got the application and opened it up. I was so excited to get started. I got to the page where it lists all of the attachments, and I saw that I needed to provide proof of my highest level of education. I froze. Here it comes. I may as well stop right here. I looked at the different levels of education and realized that I could only prove my highest level being high school, and didn't even know at the time how I could prove it. I mean, I graduated in 1970. So now you have to know that since I was in my early 30s, I have been taking one college course after another. Every course I took that was offered through my work, I took it. I became a certified project manager through work. I went to school for 2 years and worked for the school for 5 years to become a board certified spiritual life coach and self-mastery teacher. 2 more years I trained to become a transformational breathwork practitioner. But in my error mind, none of this mattered because it wasn't on the list. God, guide me. The bellow, I'm just shouting it higher. So I stopped. I breathed. I relaxed enough to remember that I am a co-creator with God, so I am inherently good. And Jesus, didn't he say that I could do his works and even greater? Believe it or not, all of this took a few weeks to process. God guide me was ever present in my conscious mind. I was finally ready to move on. I started the narrative questions. I scrolled through the entire application and saw a mountain in front of me. I called a friend and kind of sarcastically said, "This is worse than the Spanish Inquisition." We laughed. She said it wasn't. So I set a target of answering 4 questions a day so I wouldn't be overwhelmed. God guide me. I could answer the questions. I wasn't triggered by the memories, but it wasn't fun. Again, I reached out for spiritual guidance and was told to just let it be and you can have fun. It had to be a conscious decision. And by the way, utilize some of those 12 powers you have: imagination, strength, love, wisdom, concentration, and zeal. God guide me. I got to the last question and burst out laughing. The question was, is there anything else you want us to know about you that we haven't asked? Gosh, I had gone through so many emotional ups and downs. I moved through procrastination, was able to keep going. I pulled on my spiritual powers of wisdom, power, and strength, and I kept going. But yes, there is something else I want you to know. I heard the voice of the Lord saying, "Whom shall I send? And who will go for us?" Then I said, "Here am I. Send me." God guide me.